Yo, what's up? Good evening, good evening. Just give me a moment. I literally just walked in the door from work, so just bear with me. Give me a sec. Thank you guys for showing up tonight, man. I appreciate it. All right, just bear with me. I'm still waiting on Franklin to join in just for a moment. What's good? What's good? Hope everybody's having a good day. Okay, I think I'm good. And a little bit more light. It's good. Thank you guys are coming in. You guys go ahead and like it, share. I want as many people in here supporting Kristen, Aiden, and Franklin. Bear with me one moment. I'm just responding to something. Yes, Tony. What's up, buddy? It's a late night. I'm just doing a little tribute. It's a little um, special edition. It's not the typical interview style that I usually do during the week or whatnot. Hope all's well, buddy. He just messaged me a minute ago, so I'm waiting on him to come on. It's something I wanted to do for a couple weeks just to honor and just help somebody out, especially during that tough time. Um, Losing somebody, no matter what it is, it's hard, it sucks. But when you leave behind a wife and a little son, it definitely hits home. And somebody that you knew for such a long time had such an impact on your life. I wanted to do something just to show my support. So I don't. Hey Becky, how you doing? Thank you for coming in. I appreciate the support. So it's not about viewers. It's not about anything like that. It's definitely a different stream than what I normally do. So it's nothing more. It's just to show my support. Thank you. Yeah, man. It's hold on. He's messaging me right now. What's up, Real Chill Graz? Long time no talk. Give me one Give me 1 second. All right, I'm back. What's up, Joe? I'm just trying to. He's having a little technical difficulties. I'm trying to work with him. Yeah, man. I'm just here. I'm mainly it's primarily for supporting his wife and his young son. I put on top. It's not anything. I've never asked for contributions or anything like that. Just if you want to, it's entirely up to you. I've got my Cash App on there. 100% of the funds will go towards his son. Um, there's a special checking account that's being set aside for him when he gets of age. So I wanted us as a community to come together. It doesn't matter, but just any little bit helps. Lost two of my brothers a week ago. Yeah, man, life stinks. Especially when you lose family members. Sorry for your loss, Tony. Krista sent me some. Uh, she sent me an email with some stories from her and her Aiden. So I'll be reading that in just a moment. I'm waiting on Franklin to come on. He's got some stories. He's his older brother. I went to school with both of them, so they're pretty good dudes. How's everybody else doing tonight? Yeah, man. Tony, sorry for your loss, brother. It's not easy. Not easy at all. I'm just gonna reach out. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna reach out to Franklin real fast and make sure he's good to go. Y'all could go ahead and like it. I want as much people supporting here in here as possible. Just supporting. It's real life stuff. It's not drama or any stuff that you usually see on YouTube. So all that aside, just for real good calls. I know Chris is in the chat. If you want to comment, you're more than welcome. We're here to support you as well. She didn't want to come on, and that's quite understandable. So I'm not. Yeah, we're here. We're here in the chat. So if you want to comment, feel free. If you're, it's entirely up to you. But I will definitely read your stories out here in a moment after I get done talking with Franklin. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, man. That's good, man. They just got to be. It's good to remember the good memories and some of that you can be prouder of. You know that you know that you had the impact on their life and they had one on yours. What's up? Give me 1 second. What's up, Red Hood? So while I'm waiting on him, I'm just gonna go ahead and read out Chris's story. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. She's in the chat. Just wanted to support her. So this is from Krista. She wrote me an email, basically sharing some memories of Lance and his son. I'll try to see if I can scroll through. What's good, Hood? So I'll read it. Because here's some good stuff Aiden and I were talking about tonight concerning Lance. If you don't want to talk about it all, you don't have to. I'll just send you a bunch of stuff and you can decide. We were just talking about some good memories Aiden had with him. Lance and Aiden used to love having Nerf gun wars with each other, and even Lance's mom too, when they were at each other's house. They would get all dressed up in their gear and have all out wars. Even though Aiden was little, Lance did not let him win. Sometimes Aiden would be on his grandma's team, but if Lance was beating him, Aiden would change to his dad's team instead. One time, Aiden had his Nerf gun and shot these very hard bullets. I was cooking in the kitchen and told Aiden to go shoot his dad. Aiden went right on by him on the couch and shot him directly in the eye. Lance screamed because it hurt. I didn't know Aiden would get so close to him, but like that. His eye hurt for a while that day and it was blurry, but it got better. We laughed about it later on, even though it definitely not laughing then. He was definitely not laughing then. Lance would always take Aim to the Marvel movies, and I would go with them to unless they wanted to go by themselves. Aiden loved all DC and Marvel characters and would dress up in a different superhero costume every day. We took him to see Marvel Live around 6 years ago in Birmingham, and we all loved it. Every Father's Day, for the longest time, Aiden and Lance would spend the day together. They would go eat together at Longhorn, watch a movie, and go to Bass Pro Shop to look around. They both loved the store. When everything was closed due to COVID, They just ordered food to have at home and watched a movie on Netflix together. Lance was always so proud of Aiden. I'll never forget the day he was born. Lance and I was the only ones in the room because I had a C-section. Lance held him first, and then he was always said he never could describe the feeling of love that overwhelmed him when he saw our son for the very first time. When I was in the recovery room, Lance came in there to talk to me. He said he got to carry Aiden to the nursery. When he walked out with Aiden, all of our family and some family members were there, our friends were there. Lance cries his eyes out, and everyone was looking at the sweet baby. He was in there when they bathed him and weighed him. He was so excited talking to me about it. He was so proud. When I was pregnant, he went to get the Aiden's name tattooed on his wrist. Then I started freaking out, thinking, what if they said it was a boy and they were mistaken that it was a girl? Lance was always proud of his tattoos. He's got my name tattooed on his back when we were just dating and not even close to being engaged. I was very surprised when he wanted to make that kind of commitment to me that early on. He proposed to me on Christmas Eve 2003. I had left work late and we were going to my aunt's house for Christmas Eve with them. I'd hardly told him that we wait to get. I had hardly told him we should wait to get engaged, tongue tied, but had a sneaking suspicion we were going to ask. He talked to my dad and everything. When we got to my aunt's, most of them were gone to a Christmas Eve concert at church. So he took me downstairs outside. We stood on the porch and started talking. To be honest, I don't remember what he said because I was still shocked what this actually was happening. He did say that he loved me and asked me if I would marry him. I stood there and my hands in my face, and he was like, "Well, LOL." I said yes, but we didn't even tell everyone that night, even though my parents knew. We got married on October 9th. We had a beautiful wedding and an awesome wedding reception with dancing. Everyone told us how fun our wedding was, and that's what we both wanted. Our marriage had lots of ups and downs, and Lance struggled with really some tough times. He overcame a lot. One thing he always had was his sense of humor, and everybody knows how funny he was. Yes, definitely. Like Franklin said at the memorial service, Lance would make fun of his friend and his family ruthlessly. Yes, he would. Sometimes I'd get on to him, but he would try to act like it wasn't funny. We loved each other, and he was my very best friend. He knew so many people. I knew I would always end up telling him it didn't matter where he went. He'd always end up knowing someone there, and it was true. Now Aiden is the same way. Before we went to had Aiden, um, I'll read the rest in a moment. Franklin's on it. Yeah.
Then you can.
What's up, man?
Hey, how you doing? I was gonna say you
Hey,
can
I
keep.
was just reading a little bit of Krista's email that she sent me. I realized that you were coming on. I know you got to go here in a little bit, and as I just wanted to thank you for coming on first and foremost. What's up, man?
How you doing?
I'm good, man. Uh, More importantly, how are you doing?
Uh, well, uh, to be honest with you, today was a little tough just because you know,
I'm fine.
Dad and I were working together. I haven't actually seen Dad since the funeral. Really, he and I haven't really spent much time together since the funeral.
Mm-hmm,
And today we actually spent time together, and so of course, we talked about Lance a lot today, and
mm-hmm,
um, we talked about some of the things that Lance and I would do as kids, like obviously aggravating Sheila
yes.
and things like that. And so what was really funny was I was telling him, I was like, well, that's funny that you're telling me these stories because I'm talking to this guy about this tonight. And so he was telling me the story about how Lance used to torture Sheila, his wife. And so, uh, my mom and he divorced whenever we were young. Lance was really young, and so Dad remarried whenever I was like 3, or and
Mm,
Lance, or I was like maybe 4 or 5, and Lance was 3. So he never really took to Sheila, and he always just really kind of looked for ways to torture her. And so whether it would be like putting sand in her drink when she would take us to the beach, um, he would chase her with frogs, with bugs, or whatever he could find to like scare her. So Dad was just telling me these stories today, and then it got me thinking about things that Lance and I used to do.
Yeah.
And that's the Lance that I've been thinking about, is the one that was a child. I mean, that's you know when we were young, when we're riding bicycles. That's the Lance that I've been thinking of. That's the Lance that Dad and I talked about all day today.
So, what are some of those stories? I know you talked about just a few minutes ago. What are some of your favorite memories of him?
Um, well, I've been thinking about that a lot. There's one memory that always sticks out with me, um, and it's one of these stories that you really had to have been there for it to be as funny, but it's still my favorite memory of Lance. And every time that Lance and I, not every time, but often when we get together, we would still talk about this.
Hmm.
And so I was like maybe 12, and Lance was maybe 10. And we lived in these apartments in Wetumpka, Alabama. Well, it was Elmore, really.
Hmm.
So, anyways, maybe it was 4th of July or it was something like that. We had some fireworks. We had Roman candles, and Lance and us had a little bit of a bottle rocket war earlier, and Lance and I were on the opposing teams, and so of course we were the older kids and we were just pummeling them.
Hmm.
And so finally, my I don't remember what it was, but Lance was like, "You can't hit me with this Roman candle," and I was like, "Well, watch this." And so he said, "You won't do it. You won't do it." And I really don't know why I did it, because I know I shouldn't have done it. But
Hmm.
Roman candle has like 4 or 5, like pretty large fireballs that get launched out of that tunnel, and I launched like 5 of them at him as he's running. And and I remember the first one like skips off of his head, flies up in the air, and there was this noise that he made. It was like, and so all of my friends and I, we start laughing, and I'm still just holding that Roman candle, just shooting him, and I hit him probably 3 or 4 times, and and finally he falls on the ground. It's just the worst thing that I could have ever done as a big brother, but still, I remember this. And he falls and like gets mud all over himself. And then while he's on the ground, that last Roman candle, I had to like shoot him while he was down and out. I shot him with the last of the Roman candles, and it hit him. And so I don't know. Every time we would get together, not every time, but often, we would always talk about that and laugh about that. So that's one story that sticks out to me.
Hmm.
Um, Another one, Lance and I always had, like, from the time we were really young, like 4. Lance would be 4, maybe I was 6. We would always have like a neighborhood of kids, and we would play war. And so we would, always, um, uh, like, just have these like realistic, like in mine and his head, like what we were seeing, was very realistic. Like we were imagining like the Vietnamese soldiers like coming over the hill, and we're giving it everything we've got. And you know we would take those, the little, in a gumball machine, you get those little toys that are in those little, uh they're like the little things that you can pop, like it's like a
Yeah,
half
yeah,
inch
yeah,
or
yeah.
something. So we would fill those up with dirt, and we would throw those as like grenades or something. And when they would blow up, we would fall on the ground, and like, we would hold our hands over our head like the dust was coming over the, you know, like you see in the movies and stuff. And so Lance and I were, watching like G.I. Joe, obviously, and we copied that, and we watched war movies together. He and I watched the movie Navy SEALs, probably. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Have you ever seen that movie, Charlie Sheen? And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know that was,
like classic.
yeah,
Lance and
that
I
was huge
watched that
back in the day.
movie. Yeah, I mean, we watched that movie together. No joke, probably 100 times, at a minimum of 100 times. He and I watched that movie, and we could quote that movie from. And so we would be out in the woods, and we would be like doing all the hand signals and stuff that we saw from that movie. And so we took that seriously. We really played war up until you know. Um, we were like maybe 12 or 13. And then Lance, obviously started skateboarding and he was too cool for that. So,
Yeah, he got in skateboarding and never looked back.
yeah.
He's still, from what I could see, was still into skateboarding.
Yeah, yeah, he did. I mean, um, even later on in life, he was still in skateboarding. But I mean, skateboarding got cooler. Lance, that's another thing too. Like I always thought Lance was a big nerd, but because
No,
he was my younger brother and he always was annoying
yeah,
and everything. And I was like, God, you're such a nerd. Why do you like skateboarding? God, whatever. But turns out like he was way ahead of the trends, way ahead. Like he knew what was cool. He was listening to punk before anyone else was listening to punk. He
uh-huh.
was listening to some of the metal, that I listen to now. He was listening to that stuff back when he was like 14 and 15. Lance always had he always had his ear to the underground to where
Uh-huh.
where that next trend was coming. But he didn't like see it as that. He just knew, you know, I don't know. He just knew what was cool, you know?
Every time I see or think about the Jinko jeans, I don't know
Yeah.
if you remember, I I automatically think about him. I don't
Yeah.
know what it is, but I always think because he always wore those back in the
Yeah.
day. And
Yeah.
I had one or two back in the day myself, but he always wore those. I always think about Jinko jeans.
Yeah.
Every time I think about that, I think about
Dude,
him.
that's so crazy. That's another story. Oh my God. That's another story. I used to be so embarrassed when Lance mom would take he and I to like Journeys or do you remember that? And there was
Yeah,
another store and I can't remember what it was. This is like pre emo, pre like Hot Topic days. There was another store in like the Montgomery Mall, or maybe it was the Eastdale Mall, and it had like all the cool band shirts, and it had all that kind of stuff in there. And Lance and I would go in there, and
Spencer's.
no, it wasn't Spencer's. It was something else, and I just remember like and it may have been Journeys, but I don't think it was. I can't remember, but we used to love to go to that store. And this is like for real. Um, this is before Hot Topic. This is before any of that stuff. Um, before you could really get all that stuff in the mall. But anyways, we would always go and do that. And he was into like Airwalks and Vans
Mm-hmm.
and Converse and all those things that kids love now. He loved all that when no one else loved it. You know.
Yeah.
So I always respected that about him because he always kind of knew, like he knew what was going on before it was going on.
He like set the trend because I remember like in the late '90s that was starting to kick on the Airwalks and the Jinko jeans and
Yeah,
the trying to think I can't the happy sacks
yeah.
when people used
Oh,
to
the
kick
hacky
around
stacks. Oh
hacky
yeah. Oh
sacks.
God.
Yes.
Oh God.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah,
And I would be like, "What is this? You're such a weirdo, man. Get those weird things out of here." He'd be over there like kicking them up against the wall and stuff, and like. But then I thought it was cool, later on.
yeah.
He always,
Everybody had one of those back in the day, man.
yeah, yeah.
Those were
Yeah, Lance was always ahead of the curve for sure. But he was like even when we were younger, you know, um, I think because Lance had a really hard time. Did you meet Lance at Stanhope,
yeah. I went to school actually.
Millbrook Middle, or whatever?
Millbrook Middle. I
Yeah,
went to Millbrook
okay.
Middle. I didn't really get to know him until my freshman and sophomore year. I knew him, but I didn't really know him until my freshman and sophomore year at Stanhope.
Um, well, I do remember. We left hopeful which is, where the reason why we left was because Lance was getting into trouble. And I was getting in trouble too, but Lance was getting into a lot of trouble. And so that's the reason why we left. And Lance was having a really hard time, making friends, and he was having a hard time, because it was hopeful. It was at that time, it was like an old country school. It was redneck.
Mm-hmm.
Lance definitely was like, Lance was not into that.
That's
Lance,
not him.
yeah, no, not at all. Even at a young age, he was not into that stuff. He was like, he and I could not watch like Degrassi, and like he was never into it. He was always like, this is kind of lame, dude. He was like, at like 9 years old, he was like, let's watch Beavis and Butthead. You know what I mean? Like he knew, he just was kind of ahead of the curve. And so it took a while for him to kind of find his footing with friends and stuff. But that's the one thing that Lance always had around him too. Once Lance started to really make friends, Lance knew what it was like to not have friends. Lance knew what it was like to be, I guess you could say, quote unquote, like an outcast or whatever. He knew what it was like to be on both sides of that
Mm-hmm.
coin. And so whenever he made a friend, like that was like a lifelong friend to him. That was somebody that he really cared about. It was like family, and like that. That's another lasting legacy to me of Lance.
He didn't know a stranger.
He
Like,
did.
that's a fact. Krista said the same thing. I've talked to so many people that I went to school with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, back, how it was in stand-up, when people had cliques and stuff like that. It's how it is in high school in general. But Lance transcended that. There was nobody that really had anything bad to say about him.
Well, yeah, no. Sorry, it's way past my bedtime.
Are you good, man?
And the power went out right after you sent me that link. The power here went out, so we were without power for like, I don't know why, randomly. We had tornadoes yesterday, and our power didn't go out, and then today a power goes out. It's weird. But anyways, yeah, no, Lance was. I remember. I think it was MXPX slowly going the way of the Buffalo. I don't know if you listen. There was like an old Christian punk band, and I remember I was like, maybe I was like 13 or something, and I made mom take me to the tanning bed, and so she was with Nanny, so we had to listen to like whatever Nanny wanted to listen to on the radio, and so Lance had that MXPX CD back in the back seat, and this is something that Lance had already played out. He's not even listening to this anymore. This is in the back seat of my mom's car. He could give a shit less about this CD at this point in time.
Yeah.
But so I put it in, and it was like something I'd never heard. Like, I'd never heard like punk in that way. You know what I mean? I didn't even really understand what that was. I knew when I heard it that it was different, and there was something, and he had been listening to it for like 3 or 4 years at that time, and had been trying to tell me. And I was like, whatever. If it's not Pearl Jam, yeah, if it's not Pearl Jam, I don't want to hear about it, And but he knew. He just always had this like ear to like what was like unique or something. I don't know. He had an ear different than everyone else.
Yeah, he definitely had a unique style. Um, is there any like any stories about Lance, that some stuff that he did for other people? Because I've heard a lot of things on Facebook and stuff like that. Stuff that only he would do for people, just being himself.
Well, the Lance I knew when I was a kid, that wasn't really kind of what we were doing. But what I remember Lance is, I mean, even from when we were young or whatever, like Lance always made someone smile, except for Sheila, my stepmom. Other than her, who he completely tortured our whole lives.
I remember.
Yeah, but other than her, anyone, he would make them smile. He would make them laugh. He would brighten up the room. Lance was just always really funny. Now, he went, when he was a teenager, he had his angsty years when he got zitty, and he was all awkward, and he was like, oh, I don't know how to talk to girls, blah, blah, blah. That everybody goes through that. So yeah, he was angry and angsty, but especially as Lance got older, and got more comfortable with himself. Lance always had this amazing personality,
Mhm.
but the older he got, the more comfortable in his skin he got, and he was more comfortable with being himself around other people. And Lance also, I think, over time began to see how he impacted other people and how he could, have, like, Lance was really witty and could carry on a conversation with anyone.
Mhm.
He was a smart ass, um, and he always had a comeback. And so I feel like for the most part, if you were ever shy, if you um, in some way were withdrawn or whatever, he wouldn't let you get away with that. Like, he would be like, dude, he would pick on you and mess with you and to get you to come out of your shell.
Yeah, your shell.
And I
Exactly.
think a lot of people responded to Lance. He had a gift with being able to bring that like spirit out of someone, even if it was like broken, or if it was like I remember there were lots of kids, especially in early on in our church days, that Lance, you could tell these kids had been hurt, or they had had some type of trauma in their life or something. Someone had let them down, but like Lance refused to do that. Like, he would never let someone down. He always, like, he took it like to heart, to show that he cared for other people. and,
Mhm.
and then like I said, the older he got, obviously he was still really grumpy, um, and and you know have been. I mean, he was kind of an old man when he was like 13 or 14, but at the same time, he had that other side to him where he could make a joke and and
Lighten
his
up the mood.
yeah. And Aiden obviously has carried the torch. He's carrying the torch for his dad. He's heading in that same direction, you know.
I could see, like, I could tell he's a chip off the old block.
He is perfect. That's a perfect way to say it. A chip off the old block. He is. He's carrying the torch for old dad. That's for sure.
Yeah, as one of the things, like you said, it kind of struck in my mind. He definitely picked up for the underdog. I remember back in the day, there was a new kid that was, you know how kids are back in the day, picking on each other, but he stood up for that kid, and he as stood out, like we were all standing together, and he was defending somebody that he didn't even know. Really,
Yeah.
it just speaks up to the person that he was.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he was. And I hate it too, because I felt like, Lance and I, towards the end, we started to get closer, and we started to be able to have, our relationship was getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And um I was really proud of Lance. I was really proud of the man he had become. Um the you know the father that he had been. I respected Lance. Lance always stuck to his guns, and, like, you know, he would call me out on things that at the time I'd be like, you don't know what you're talking about. But later on in life, I would be like, wow, you did know what you were talking about.
Hmm.
Still think about those things that Lance, you know, um, he basically told me over time, anyways. Um, but I think Lance impacted a lot of people's lives, and he obviously impacted my life. He impacted, his son's life. Um, and I think now really it's up to us to kind of carry on,
Hmm.
those traditions and all those. I wouldn't say quirks, but what are they, like? That
Unique
Yeah,
qualities.
his qualities, his sensibilities, those things that Lance carried with him, that I want to make sure that I pass on to my daughter, and I want to make sure that Aiden has that, and he doesn't forget those things. Um, and I think Aiden, in a lot of ways, has that light on the inside as well. Like, he impacts other people's lives. I think people come to him, and it's easy to be friends with Aiden. He can kind of be a chameleon, and blend
Just
in.
like him, just like
Yeah,
Lance.
and he can blend in with anyone and talk with anyone. He's got a little bit more confidence than the average man does, which Lance didn't have at that age, but um,
Uh-huh.
but Aiden surely does. you know. Anyways,
So
what would your favorite story of Lance?
my favorite story, it involves, see, one time my parents were out of town for the weekend, and I just said, sure, yeah, come over. I didn't realize that he had several people with him in his car or
Uh,
in a car. Um, just randomly showed up to my house,
yeah.
and we just hung out. Of course, I got in a lot of trouble because somebody had snitched on me or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
It's gonna happen. Yeah,
yeah, but that's how he was. Like he just brought a group of people with him, and we just hung out, did stuff that teenagers do. But
yeah, yeah. Who did he
but I
bring
just
with him? If you don't mind me asking, who was it? Was Nigel with him?
Nigel, yes. Um, trying to remember who else. I think Victor might have been with him. I don't
Yeah.
know if you remember him. That's another thing that speaks about him. Victor was he was an exchange student. He
Oh, I
was only in
remember
the
Victor.
Yes, he was only there for quite a short time, but he befriended him when he did,
I
he
remember.
reached out to him
Yeah,
just to be friends with him and stuff like
yeah,
that. But I think Josh was there. There's a few other people that was there
yeah,
that just all randomly showed up at my house when my parents were out of
yeah.
town, and
Let's party.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
it's probably one.
another thing probably a lot of people don't know about Lance. Um, Lance was mostly a bad dancer, but he had a couple moves that he could bust out that were not too bad. And
Uh-huh.
I've seen him. I don't know if you've ever seen him drunk enough for him to get him to dance, but he I think very few people, maybe Krista has seen him bust out some moves, but he's got some pretty sweet moves too.
He does.
Yeah, that's something that
I've never
a
personally
lot of
seen
people
him,
really
so I
do.
can't.
Yeah, it'd probably be a real rare occasion to get him to do it, but I've seen him dance twice in my life. And I know, and I think Krista has too, and he'd probably kill us if we ever said anything about it. If he'd be rolling in his grave right now. But Lance had like one or two moves, and I guess Aiden got his moves from Krista.
So he can't dance. Huh?
No, Aiden can dance.
Oh, he can. She's
Yeah,
watching. She's in here. So
Krista. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Ask Krista. How come I can't see the chat? Is anyone else?
you can go. Should be a thing that you would have to click on the comments.
Okay.
You could see it all right there.
Oh, she
Thank you
has.
guys for showing up.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, she said she'd be in here. I was reading off the email that she gave me last night, just describe memories of him and Aiden. But so he could dance.
Yeah, he had a couple little moves. Um, and he was another thing too. Lance and I loved there was movies that Lance and I watched probably 1,000 times. I mean, between um, Enter the Dragon uh,
Yes,
with Bruce Lee, Three Ninjas, the
that
first
was one of my favorites.
Three Ninjas?
Yes,
Yeah, we wore that one
Rocky loves
out.
Emily.
Yeah, yeah, we rocked that one out. I mean, we wore that movie out. And what else? The GI Joe movie, the cartoon GI Joe movie with whenever Cobra Commander comes.
Cobra Kai, not Cobra Kai, but Cobra
This,
Commander.
yeah, or like the
Yeah,
Serpent Dude, whatever his name was.
yeah,
We wore
yeah.
that one out. The Ninja Turtles movies, we wore those out. The Goonies, the Sandlot. Um, like Lance and I were big on like watching movies and quoting movies, and even later on in life, we would watch movies, and I'd ask him, I'd be like, "Well, have you seen this, or have you seen this?" Like Napoleon Dynamite or whatever.
Gosh.
And yeah, and he usually had, and then we would always. So that was another thing too. Lance and I had we always growing up, we would always we would watch like Billy Madison, or any, we loved stuff like that.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites back in the day. Any
Yeah,
Adam Sandler
yeah,
movies like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, those were my favorites. Tommy Boy, Chris Farley movies, those were also my favorites too.
yeah. It was before I got too cool for him, and then I couldn't sit down and watch a movie with him anymore. So, yeah, um, lots of good memories, and it's funny. Dad still will pull out some pictures. He pulled out a picture today of Lance, of a picture that I'd never seen before, of him in a hat that I'd never seen before. So we're still finding stuff, that
Hmm.
you know, and it's weird because I'll just be driving down the road and I'll remember something crazy or something weird, something funny, Um, and my cousin Jerry told me a story the other day of Lance that I don't remember this happening, but I was picking on Lance at Aunt Kay's house, and and I can't remember. I mean, must have been really bad because and Lance was maybe 3, and he picks up a big Encyclopedia Britannica and comes over and hits me over the top of the head with this
I
Encyclopedia
was
Britannica.
hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like 4, but I was picking on him. I mean, I deserved
Yeah,
it. He had had enough of it, and he just and Aunt Kay and Jerry were sitting there laughing when they were telling me the story because they were like, and he just got up and grabbed that encyclopedia and came over and just smashed you in the head with it. And um, but that was Lance. Like he was really, really just shy and quiet, and but he once he had enough of it, that was it. And he'd let you know. And
there's Krista. What's up, Krista?
there she is.
There. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate you. I was just reading off your email before Franklin. We were just talking about some stories about Lance.
Yeah, yeah. I was looking at the chat.
He definitely learned to talk a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, well, I just wanted to get all those stories out there because those have been on my mind, you know.
Uh-huh.
But it's past my bedtime.
All
I'm gonna
right, man.
I'm gonna
I
go to bed and hop
appreciate
out.
it. Any last things you want to say before you leave, or
Well, just I miss him. I miss my brother very much, and I think about him all the time. And I'm so happy that you did this. I think it's awesome to carry on his memory and to share memories of him. I think that's amazing, and I
yeah,
love that.
man?
I hope that Lance can continue to touch lives even in death. I think that's amazing.
It's a way that I feel like I could honor him. I've got a platform, so I try to use it as much as I can just to spread positivity. And this is a way to just to honor him and his legacy
Yeah,
because he touched, like you said, he touched so many people's lives in just a short amount of time. I mean, he was my age, but you just think of the people that he touched no matter what. So I'm glad that you came on. I'm glad, that, especially being late at night, and
yeah.
I appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, hey, you guys have a good night.
Bye.
All right, give me 1 second. We'll go ahead and finish up um, where I was at. Yes, he always will. I no problem, Tony. I'm trying to think where I left off. So I was reading your email, Krista. Um, the one that you sent me last night. Was going through it before Franklin came on. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up. If there's anything you want to say in the chat, feel free. Like I said, this is for Lance and Aiden. I pinned a link to my Cash App for those as well. It's not about the money, but if you want to, it's entirely up to you. It's all right. Everybody's showing some love to Krista if you can, please, as well. So I'm gonna finish up right where I left off. Lance was always proud of his tattoos. He got my name tattooed on his back when we were just dating and not even close to being. Oh, I already said that. Give me 1 second. So Lance had got a lot of injuries from skateboarding even after we got married. He not hated not being able to do it anymore because he loved it so much. He loved working on cars and was the best at it. So many people asked him to help them or had questions, and he would have been there for them. He had two back surgeries in 2018 and stayed in constant pain even after surgeries. He also had permanent nerve damage in his leg from it. Even with all that, he would still change the oil in our cars to make sure that we were taken care of. In June of this year, my alternator went out in my car. He changed it out so he could take my car to the dealership and trade it in. Lance cared about others even when he told me he didn't like people who preferred to stay at home. That was mostly because of his body was so much pain. He tried to make the best of it. He actually loved people, and so many people loved him back. I turned 40 in July, and he made it so special. He made a cake that said "Over the Hill." It took me shopping, went out to eat, and spent time together. Lance loved to shop and spend money, but I'm the complete opposite. We sometimes disagree when it came to money, but as he got older, he got better about it some. He and I learned a lot being together. Some hard lessons to learn, but we grew into people who loved each other deeply and trusted one another with our lives. I'm so thankful I could be there to help him through this last part of his life. We miss him terribly and always will. Our hearts and our lives aren't the same without him. Thank you for doing this podcast in honor of Lance. It means so much, and any contributions made to the account I've set up for Aiden are very much appreciated. Aiden does not know about this account and won't until later when he's older. Sincerely, Chris Outlaw. So I read that. It's very heartfelt. I appreciate you for saying that, Krista. I know it's um, definitely tough times. I wanted to do this to help you out, to help Aiden out. I know, like, it's not easy losing somebody that you love, especially a young boy losing his father. And I wanted to honor him, something he could look back on, and um, if he has access to YouTube, we could look at it and hear his uncle talking about him, and me reading the email about some memories, something he could look back on, and if he's having a bad day, just to gain strength from it. So that's one of the main reasons I wanted to do it. So I appreciate you for coming on. I'm going to end this in a minute, but if there's anything that you want to say in the comment section, go ahead. I'm trying to think. There's a couple other stories about him that at the time that fly off the top of my head. There was one. There was um, I'm trying to remember her name. I can't remember her name, but it was junior year, and she was shy. She didn't really know that many people, but she wanted to go to the senior prom or the junior prom, and didn't wasn't she didn't want to go alone. But Lance offered just to take her, just to so she could go to her junior prom. That's the type of person he was, just to help somebody out, help a friend out. So that's just a solid guy. Hold on. That's not going to be tolerated. But yes, he was a solid guy. Yes, it's been. I'm going to highlight that so people can read that. It's been very tough on him. Thank you so much again. We love Lance so much. I think it was Ashley Tarleton. That's what it was. Couldn't remember. That's who it was. Yeah, he just took her to the prom. She was didn't want to go. She was quiet and shy, and didn't want to go along with Lance, just befriended her and took her to the prom so she can have a nice time. That's just the type of person he was. He'd always reach out to people, like Franklin was saying, was people that was down, people that were the underdogs. He would always reach out to her and or reach out to them and help them out. If you don't, he had COVID, um, and unfortunately passed from that PNM. Just But trying to think of anything else that comes to mind about him. It was like 20 something years ago, so there's nothing really. There's so many memories, but nothing really comes to mind. But like I said, he always. I talked about Victor, the exchange student earlier. I'm sure you've heard stories about him, Krista. He befriended him like he didn't know anybody. He was in a new country, new territory, all on his own, and he befriended him. That's just the type of person he was. Just to reach out to people that are, that are down, or people that were in those situations. Yes, I loved Victor. He had a unique sense of humor, but he was awesome. I loved him. I still talk to him every once in a while. If there's any memories of him that you want to, or anything else of him that you want to talk about while I'm wrapping things up, you're more than welcome. I'm gonna wrap things up. I know it's getting pretty late, so I don't want to keep up too much of your time. And I will reach out to you in a little bit about the account. I'm just reading some of the comments. I appreciate you guys for coming in as well as showing some love. It means a lot. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Tori. I'm trying to scroll up. Thank you, Chase, Tony, um, Cooley, PNN. Thank you for showing some love. Worldwide, Captain Clayton, Ron, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan, for showing up, bro. And Creeps, Red Hood, Jesus. Jesus will be on Sunday with me as well. So if there's nothing else, just want to wrap it up. Thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate it. I just wanted to take the time just to honor, if nothing more, for Krista and Lance, not Lance, but Aiden to look at. Just something, if they're having a downtime and they need something to pick them up and lift them up. Just to hear some stories about him and people that loved him, that cared for him. I know it's been not been the easiest of times, so I just want to do what I can to help out. So I appreciate you guys for coming on tonight. Much love. I will have Jesus on Sunday, and then I'll have thank no thank you. And I'll have Ryan on Monday. So I appreciate you guys. I want you guys to have a wonderful night. If you guys can hit the like button, share, and subscribe, I appreciate it. Love you guys. You guys are awesome.